I can
Uh,
do that. Yep, yep.
I can get some like peanut butter and jelly.
I can do that.
Wait,
Diane likes PB and J.
okay, so question here. There's some
Yes, sir.
very important distinctions about peanut butter and jelly. First off, type of peanut butter, creamy or crunchy?
Creamy.
Okay, okay, good. All right, now this is the big one. What flavor of jelly or jam do you use?
So in our house it's different. Diane prefers um, grape, and I'm a strawberry, and
Yep.
it's grape jelly and
Mhm.
strawberry jam,
Yes, that's
and
the
I'm a strawberry jammer.
same here, and there's a very
Now
strong
there's a
divide.
final important question:
Oh,
crust on, crust off.
crust on. I'm not in preschool here. I can.
It just made me smile. I go back to my Daniel-san. Crust on, crust off.
Do you still take your crust off?
No, no.
No.
Unless
Did your
unless it's
parents ever do
nasty.
that for you?
Unless it's like, yeah, actually, yeah. When I was a
Oh, well, look
kid,
at that. Nice.
yeah, yeah.
Little Bobby G going to
With his
school.
and you'd have the little. It's like finger sandwiches. What do the
Uh,
English do? What do they do? Cucumber sandwiches or something like
oh
that?
God, I don't know.
There's some weird finger, they do little sandwiches, and I think there's like a cucumber cream cheese-ish thing that's really popular there. I don't hey, they're English. What can I say? Oh, we're gonna get hate. I'm gonna get hate mail. I can feel it. Hate mail.
Well,
Uh I
yeah,
didn't mean it.
that's
I
the
didn't
intro
mean it,
joke.
folks.
And let's see. Grape, get out of here.
Grape, strawberry,
No. Okay,
strawberry
so now,
jam.
so while we're on the topic of peanut butter and jelly, I apparently make peanut butter and jelly wrong, according to everybody else I've ever met. I take bread, I
Yep,
put peanut butter on it,
yep.
then I put the strawberry jam directly on the peanut butter.
Oh no, that's wrong.
I, so,
That's wrong. How did you learn? No, you put it on the other piece of bread and then you smush. There's the smush technique. No, how can you do? Oh, that's
I
terrible.
have never met anybody that was like, yeah, that's how I make it. So I apparently am the one person in the universe that does things really wrong.
I can't. I don't know.
I'm
Oh,
sorry to have ruined.
there's a. I'll have to look for it. There's a video, and people use it in agile coaching, where a father is trying to talk to his two children and
Yeah,
give them instructions about how to create a peanut butter jelly, I think, or something. Have you
yeah,
ever seen that? It
yeah,
it is, and it's just he tells them, and then they follow directions. It's
yeah,
talking about requirements, the
yeah,
difficulty in following requirements and getting requirements clear.
yeah,
And I just love that video. I'll have to dig that up.
yeah. My ex-wife, when she was teaching young children about coding, she would do that, and they would say, "Open the bread," and she would like rip it open from the middle.
Exactly,
The
exactly.
kids would be
You
like,
just follow
"No!"
directions.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
It's I that is one of my favorite videos. I think I grabbed that. I'll have to go look for that.
yeah. It's good.
But we are we going to continue to talk about PB and J, or do we have something serious to talk
I
about today,
mean,
John?
you're gonna have to divert me from peanut butter and jelly because I could go on and on about that. You ever made a double
Well,
decker?
well, oh, I have. I love double deckers. I
Yeah,
haven't made one of those in a while.
yeah,
It was like when I was thinner, I could do that. I think I did that when I was a kid more, like more of like a teenager kid.
yeah.
Now how do you smear the double deckers, man?
I
I don't
just
even
make
want.
two. I
No,
just
no,
make
I don't
two
even want to
pieces.
hear. No, you're gonna. I have shivers going up and down my spine, probably thinking about how you make a double decker. Uh,
Yeah,
Josh,
I'm apparently really off the rails
I-
on that part.
I've tried crunchy peanut
Mhm,
butter. I don't
mhm.
like it. I just
No,
don't like it. Occasionally, the other thing is natural peanut butter. You know, the stuff that has the oil that rises. I don't
yeah,
like that stuff.
no,
Now I know it's probably better for you, but I like the well mixed up or whatever, with chemicals in it to
yeah,
keep the oil from separating.
yes,
That's my preferred peanut butter.
agreed, agreed. Um, last question, last question.
Yes.
Uh, was slash is there a specific brand of peanut butter? Are you a peanut butter
Oh, oh yeah.
or like a Peter
No,
Pan
no,
or
no.
Jif?
Skippy.
You do Skippy?
I
You're a
do Skippy. I'm a Skippy man. I
I'm a
think
Jif
if
man.
I think, are you a Jif man? I
Yeah.
think Jif is too. It's too dry,
Hmm,
too salty. And
interesting.
Peter Pan for me, if I remember, is too sweet. And Skippy is just right
Just
for
right.
me.
It's like
Just right. It's like the Three Bears of peanut butter.
it is the Goldilocks of peanut butter.
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
And you're a Jif man?
yes, and Smuckers because they're from where I grew up.
Oh, Smuckers? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I mean, Smuckers makes great. I'll take any like homemade jams and stuff like that, or those little boutique places. I
yeah.
love good strawberry jam. Blueberry, I'll do blueberry jam as well.
Wow.
Oh, try blue. From Maine, like places that pick wild blueberries and stuff. I love so I'll. It's not just any blueberry, but if I can get really good boutique blueberry jam, I'll do that.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Boy,
and we're done. Shake and bake.
we've opened a door into the inner recesses of Bob and Josh.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a cooking show now.
No, please. One eight
Okay.
hundred Dominoes or something like that,
Oh
right?
gosh. Yeah. All right. Advocacy, more important, self advocacy, or do we even call it agile advocacy? One of the challenges that Bob and I have talked about in the past, and we wanted to dig in a little bit more, is so oftentimes agile coaches, agile leaders don't do a good enough job advocating for themselves and or the work that they're doing that agile is supporting and the boldness that is required to make that happen. There are a lot of people that back off of that because it does require a bit of boldness to say, hey, look at me, look at us, this is what we've done, and here's like some proof. So there's a whole bunch of stuff we want to dig into there.
Well, I've recently I have this Moose Herd lean coffee that I do. So within the last 3 weeks, I coached a group of coaches. I'm mentoring a group of coaches periodically on weekends. And I brought up this notion of or tooting your own horn
Mhm.
from a coaching perspective, or self-advocacy and self-marketing, however you want to frame it. And you would have thought that I talked about running over a puppy, um, because it was like the faces on the Zoom screen changed, and it was like, no, what are you talking about? I thought I was a servant leader, right? Bob, you've talked about servant leadership coaching, and you've talked about it's all about the team and serving the team. So it's like, it's not about talking about me. And I don't want my ego to get in the way, right? I'm supposed to be behind the team. It's all about my results. And I heard that in this one room from a bunch of coaches. And they weren't all novice coaches. They're out there in industry. They have, they're in companies. And there was just sort of this major, not just reluctance, Josh,
Mhm.
not just a lack of skill, but it was like, that's wrong. You can't do that.
Wow.
I had actually presented them. I have a little workshop that I put together that talked about it. So I presented some slides, and I'm not sure how much traction I made, but I tried to talk about, yes, you want to be humble. You don't want to be a jerk, but at the same time, uh, you maybe need to advocate for yourself. And the overriding premise of that group was, everyone needs to advocate for me. All right,
Mhm.
my team should sing my praises. My boss should know if I'm doing a good job. The metrics should speak for themselves. Then I went to the Moose Herd, this lean coffee, and I proposed the same thing. I just wanted to bounce it out there. And again, 10 to 12 coaches, probably even more experience in the first group. And it was the same horrible experience. No, it wasn't. I'm exaggerating, but
Yeah.
it was like, what are you talking about? And it was even a little bit more of an uproar of like, that's wrong, Bob. I mean, I was gonna like run out of the Zoom room. It's like, right, it's like I had horns and I was proposing something anti-agile or something. The more experienced the coaches, or the more they were professional coaches, they were like, no way do you talk about yourself. You never put yourself out there, etc. Right? It's always about the value should be self-evident. And I'm really I think I've uncovered a problem with coaches.
Yeah.
Uh
And you and I both advocate for ourselves just as brands. So it's not foreign to us. Like my whole reaction to that story that you said is like, my gosh, like I never would have equated being a servant leader with not advocating for yourself. Like that just doesn't, those two don't line up for me in my brain. But then as you continued on, I started thinking about we are a little bit different because we do things like this and we put ourselves out there and um, we try and build brands for ourselves and for the podcast. And that's a different angle that many agile coaches and scrum masters take because of the servancy, if that's even a word, of that's their whole life is how do I make everything around me better? And one of the challenges is that yes, you can do that, but if you really are about making everything around you better and you don't advocate for yourself, then the amount of area that you can make better is going to remain the same size. And when you advocate for yourself and everything, all of the goodness that you're creating, you then get more opportunities to expand the goodness that you create. So you get in that comfort zone where like, okay, well, I'm a servant leader and this is what I do. And your span is very narrow. But as you start to market yourself or just like even talk about the success that you and your teams are having, that becomes a thing that's noticed across the company or the industry or whatever. And it's like, hey, you like to make a difference. Would you like to make more of a difference?
Absolutely. I think it's I had a thought and then I went off on another tangent. Maybe I'll use one of the thoughts I had. I was in Virginia in Richmond last week, attending the Innovate Virginia. I spoke at the Innovate Virginia uh, event up there, one day Agile mini conference, and there was a guy I was sitting out in the hallway with who had gotten so Capital One is in Richmond, and that's the famous 1100, 1200 Agilists were laid off.
Mhm.
Everyone with Agile in their name. Coaches, etc., were laid off. So there was a lot. There was a cloud over Innovate Virginia. It was sad, actually. And then people were trying to break through it. And this guy got laid off, but then he got rehired. So somehow he got laid off, and then he got rehired in another role. And we were having this general conversation around advocacy, or do the results speak for themselves, etc. And he was talking about his boss, and he's like, I was counting on my. He said my boss loved me. So in his role when he was laid off, he's like, my boss loved me, right? And he thought I was doing fantastic work. And I'm like, that's wonderful. And he's like, and I was counting on my boss. He didn't say it quite this way, but
Yeah.
he says, I wasn't advocating for myself because my boss loved me and I felt it was his job to advocate for me.
Mhm.
And I was like, that's great. And you had a wonderful boss. But clearly it didn't go high enough and broad enough because you
Right.
got whacked, right? Because if you would have, I mean, it sounds like you were doing wonderful work. So why would I whack you? Right? If you're having an incredible value impact to the organization. And it was the point of, and I saw this in these other two groups. There was an expectation that people would do it for you.
Mm,
Uh, right? That so it wasn't just anti-advocacy, it was sort of delegating the advocacy to people around me. There was a strong inclination that my boss should be doing that. And your boss should be doing that. But then
mhm.
there's the yes and what are you doing about it to fly your flag broadly and deeply and make sure that people know what's going on and don't be shy about it. Um,
Yeah, I mean, no one's gonna take care of you more effectively than you because you are priority number 1 for you. Yes, your boss might think you're doing a fantastic job, but there's pressures from all different directions, and they're gonna have to make difficult choices, and oftentimes it's not good to to leave that to the cards and see how they shake out. So that's a to me that's a scary approach and it's going to sound a little strong, but that's the things will happen to me. I am not going to grab the reins and make something happen. And it's like a culture. If you aren't intentional about creating a culture, it might turn out great, but more than likely, it's not going to turn out to be what you wanted
Yep.
it to be. But if you become really intentional with this is the culture I am aiming to create here, you're going to be pretty spot on with where it lands. And the same thing has to happen with you and your career. Of don't just leave it to the fates of the stock market or whatever ultimately drives your company's revenue and therefore investment in itself and everything that goes along with that. Don't let that happen. Don't be on your heels. You have to get out and be on your toes. I guess that's the opposite of being on your
Yep.
heels. And it's harder. It takes a lot of effort, but it's well worth it.
I don't think it's I think it's mandatory. I think it's an imperative to your point. And you brought it back to us. I'm a flaming introvert. You know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I may not exhibit it all the time, but I am absolutely a flaming introvert. And I am uncomfortable. And you know this about me, Josh. I am not absolutely comfortable talking about me.
Oh, yes, I know.
I have problems valuating myself.
Yes.
But darn it, right? So I'm not the best. I'm not a wonderful role model, but I understand that I have to represent myself. I have to the brand building is part of that. The
Mhm.
taking risks is part of that. Is blowing my own horn is part of that. Privately, not in hallways. It's marketing myself as a domain expert or whatever it is. It's differentiating myself. I think everyone has that responsibility. I think it's really not a good strategy to depend on other folks to explain your worth. And it's not just the data. There's another insidious part of it. Is another theme I heard was, well, the data speaks for itself. No, it doesn't. The data is the data, and it does speak. But where's your story and narrative beside the data, right? Like the data may reflect the team. Okay, so sprint burn downs and performance and throughput measures. Well, it's the team. Well, where are you in the team? Right. Talk about you. And if the data represents that and you had an influence, then talk about the part that you played.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, so something I wanna jump on there is that, I'm gonna assume there's a bunch of great agile coaches, agile leaders, scrum masters, team members that are out there, and they aren't focused on just the burn down and the metrics, but they're focused on the value that the team is creating, the value that we're creating for our sales team to go and sell to our customers and therefore generate more revenue, which comes back to us and investing and hiring more people or getting better tools or whatever it is. All this business value, business value, business value. Cool. We focus on that for our products, but why don't we do that same thing for ourselves? What is the business value that I bring to our company? What is the differentiator? What's the unique thing that I have that makes us better? You have to start thinking about that. And because you can use the metrics, you can point to burn downs or burn ups or whatever it might be, but you're still going to have to translate some of that. And ultimately, if you translate it effectively as business value generated, then you're going to be in a much better spot and it's going to become clear because agile metrics, in a boardroom don't really mean a whole lot other than like, okay, next slide, please.
well, bring the me in. I have an article I'm talking about putting the me, and I'm not going to publish it by the time this goes out,
Mhm.
but I've been inspired by this, and the title of it is putting the me back in agile coaching because it's typically a we based thing. And so it's what have we done? And there's we metrics and we measures, and that's all good. But then bring the me in. So one thing that I've done, I think, is I'll talk to as a coach, as an internal coach or an external coach. I'll talk about strategies with leaders, stakeholders, sponsors, people paying my salary. And I'll talk about like what is my intention? What are your goals for this team? What are my goals for the team? What do I observe? How do we co-create some of the goals? I'm not being prescriptive, but I share with them what I'm working on. I share with them what are my strategies. And then we start unfolding it, and I might have a conversation with them again. And I'm like, yeah, and it's not I have to be careful with my language. I'll talk, and I have to be careful with the barking that I give that stakeholder. But I talk about the team, But then I confirmed that, and I played a part in that, right? That wasn't just something that magically happened. That I have to articulate the part that I play. It was intentional. It wasn't a mistake. And then I'll talk about, well, what's next? How do I see that? So it's sort of that, like I'm sharing my value proposition with them before, during, and after. I'm trying to bring the me in.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
and I think everyone needs to have conversations like that.
So here's an exercise I'd like everybody to do, just really honing in on, okay, Bob, Josh, that sounds cool, but like, how do I do that? I clearly don't know how to do it because I'm not doing it. One of the things that I do when I'm helping people with a resume is the first thing I look at is it just a list of things that is a job description? Like, yes, you should be leading stand-ups. Yes, you should be like, don't tell people that you're doing what you're supposed to do. That, if people know the role and they're hiring you for that role, they already know what a agile coach or scrum master or engineer or whatever does. Like, that's clear. So if, as you list your jobs, if you're just listing things that I'm supposed to do because that's what my role does, then you haven't understood the business value that you created. So the challenge that I put out to people is, tell me the things that are visibly better from when you joined the team to when you left the team. What is the difference that you made? What is the change that you drove that put that company in a better position? So go
Yep,
back and look at your resume. And if you're unsure how I can translate what I've done into something of value, look at that. Hopefully, you already have that solved. And then it should be easy to start using things like that. But so many people just list like tasks. Go back and think about, in every role you had, how did I make life better for myself, the team, the product, the company, the customers, whatever it is? Show the change that you made, and that will help you tell the story to advocate for yourself as you
yep,
start talking about that. Because so many people struggle with, like, oh my gosh, how do I talk about myself? That's
yep.
always like a number one thing that people really struggle with.
I think you brought up a key for me just then, Josh. That's why I love metacasting with you, because you challenge me, because you're so darn smart. So, and the and the idea is, where do people are more comfortable talking about the me, the resume, right? They may not do it completely, but there is a me. There's not a lot of we in the resume. There's a so little we, big me, and that's right. So metacasters, take whatever you're doing, refine your resume, like Josh said, but take that skill, those views, those stories that you put in your resume, and damn it, start talking to them in hallways, virtual hallways or physical hallways. Start having that in your stakeholder conversations. Start talking about the team that way, lightly. Again, it's not a license to be obnoxious, but I think we have the capability, Josh, right? If you look at most resumes, we can articulate the me. Well, then bring that out and start getting more comfortable with it. I'd rather people get told that they're too full of themselves than what's happening now, where they don't talk about it at all, right? Oh, it's someone else's job to talk about me. That's a that's an incredibly, look at the layoffs. Look at what's happening at Capital One. That's an incredibly silly strategy, and it's not effective.
Yeah. It's a Gosh, I'm going to take us off the deep end here. So we'll see whether we leave this in or not. So all of you that are watching this live, you are getting potentially part of the
I'm
director's
waiting.
cut that ends up on
I'm waiting.
the floor. I think it's a human condition that we've developed over the past handful of years. And why do I say that? As a newly single person, I have dabbled in all of the dating apps, and you have to write a bio about yourself. And the number of people that I see that start their bio with, I hate writing about myself, or I can't write about myself, so I'm just not going to do it, or whatever. And it's just like, okay, that's not someone I would want to spend time with. Like, I want somebody that knows who they are and is confident, and this is who I am. And if you like it, great. If you don't, cool, but that's fine. And just the depth of that I see, it's really made me realize, especially when we package it with this that I think maybe it's COVID, maybe it's social media, whatever it is, that's a real challenge for people to do out in the wild. And then
Yeah.
you think about the danger of not having that skill in your career and being able to drive your career. That's a real challenge, and you have to get over it. Otherwise, you are just on a boat in the ocean going wherever the sea and the wind is going to take you.
That ties back to the boldness of the topic of this metacast, Josh,
Mhm,
is if you're not gonna be bold about your so you could be boldly negative or boldly positive, boldly undermining or boldly supportive. Um, and both of them have an effect, right? So if I'm dinging myself from the beginning, people are gonna they're gonna write me off. So we have a responsibility for constructive, positive boldness. If you're not willing to advocate for yourself, that no, yeah, don't even count on other people. No one should do it if you're not. We should be the first advocate, and then other people can follow that.
yeah.
And it's a I don't know, it's a moral obligation. It's a responsibility, right, for us to do that. Um, Capital One, I would argue, uh, and I'm not on the inside of Capital One, but I would argue that one of the fundamental problems there, because they took out all of these agile folks, is agile folks in general did a crappy job of advocating the value proposition, or or thinking that other people were making our value proposition for us and
Mhm.
not stepping into that. I know that's a part of the equation up there. It may not be the whole equation, but they could have done something about advocacy. Could have changed that scenario.
And what you'll find is when you advocate for yourself, you make it easier for others to advocate for you.
Yeah,
If you don't tell the story, if you don't live it and share it, then how's that person that you think should be advocating for you? How do you know they really are? Maybe just as you're unclear to do it for yourself, how's it fair for them to like if you can't figure out how to talk about yourself in a positive manner, how is it fair for you to expect that someone else is going to do that for you? There's like
yep,
that doesn't make sense. And one of the things that I've seen, and I didn't drive this, so I was really happy to have this in my back pocket now. But at the last place that I was at, the senior VP of engineering, I don't remember his title, he did a really, really good job of advocating for engineering as a whole. And he did a fantastic job of saying, this is who we are. This is what we're doing. This is where we're going. This is why we're good at it. These are the challenges that we have, and here's how we're fixing it. So it just became a cadence of this is who we are, and it set a completely different tone within the organization where he owned the narrative. He owned who we were because he had the boldness to do that with his peers and in the boardroom and with potential investors and everything that was out there. So much of the goodness that came out of that company was because of the things that he did like that
right,
that created this culture of we advocate for ourselves. And him doing that, we've always talked about modeling the behavior that trickled down and everybody got to be
yep,
really good at it. So as a leader, again, we've said this a bajillion times, you have to model the behaviors that you want to
yep.
see. And not I haven't seen many people do that as well as he did. And it made a huge difference.
I think in medications, I want to give you a tactic or a thought is, if you're uncomfortable with it, so tell the story of the success first. So it's not all about me, me, me. I think an effective story, talk about your successes, a successful deployment, a successful team dynamic, a successful failure where we had a great retrospective, and then talk about the part you played in it. So I think it's we, me. It's not me, me, but it's we, me. That sounds like a language sort of thing or something like that. But it's what did we do? And then be thoughtful about adding the tagline and what part did you play? And you played some part in it
Mhm.
and take some credit for that. And become that effective and the format is storytelling. right? You're not getting up there and be obnoxiously making a list. Like, don't make a list of your accomplishments and share it, right? But within the scope of the stories that are emerging from success in whatever your role is in your organization, and then add the you to that and share that. And now you're actually are serving the team because you're putting the team up and yourself up, team up and yourself up.
Mhm.
What's happening is everyone will talk about the teams or the organizational impact, and they forget the we, they forget
Yeah.
the me.
Yeah. And again, going back to, it's almost like we need to practice what we preach, because we will want the team to get up there and demo the work that they've done and celebrate all of it. And you're likely pushing the teams and team members that are uncomfortable doing that to get up in front of the crowd and to do those things and to say, like, hey, we did this and I was a part of this and this is the part that I built. You're driving other people to do that. We just need to take some of our own medicine and actually do that thing that you're saying, hey, this is a good and healthy thing for a system to do. Well, think of yourself as a system of one, and
Yeah.
do all of the goodness that you do with teams, do it with yourself.
You just brought up something really, it just joggled my brain, Josh. At eye contact when I was there, I required everyone in a team to participate in the sprint review. Not maybe in every sprint review, but I looked at it as a stage. This is a stage, and this is a chance for you to gain recognition. Even if you're just running a mouse or something in a demo, you're still part of the team. And I didn't want, when I got there, usually the product owner or the scrum
Yeah.
master would be the one running it. And I really wanted everyone to get a chance to talk about what they did. So there's the we. So I wasn't looking for selfishness, but it was the we, me. And it was very natural because it was under the banner of how the team planned their reviews. I think that's a wonderful venue. I can't tell you how many times C-level people stopped me and said, "Holy cow, Bob! Sam is doing a great job."
Mhm.
Or Priscilla. I mean, I didn't even know her name. She's kicking ass. I'm like, yeah, you bet your ass she's kicking ass in the team. And it's sort of that transparency again, how you're doing that and that's another avenue. So storytelling is an avenue, and then really dynamic reviews where everyone gets a chance.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. And I've done the same thing, and it has required some coaching for folks that were nervous or scared and handshaking and all of that stuff. But again, in the long run, it added tremendous value to our team to be seen in a light that we controlled, and we showed, hey,
Yep.
these are, and all we did was just, we replaced some assumptions that are out there. People had
Yep.
some assumptions about who we were and how we operated and what we knew, and we had a chance to squash those. Every other week we stood up in front of the crew and said, this is who we are, this is what we're doing, this is where it's at, this is what went well, all of those things. And it became clear that we were pretty darn good. But again, if we didn't take that opportunity and it was perceived as just a single person show, then that tells a much different story.
Absolutely. Hey Josh, can we do something a little, or can I want to ask you or invite you to do something. I wonder if we can model the behavior for the Metacast audience. So, and when I say I wonder if I actually mean you. So could you demonstrate advocating for yourself by talking about some of your endeavors uh, and selling
Sure.
yourself right now?
Yeah.
Could you? So a little bit of a role model. So,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Mr. Anderson.
So this is very interesting timing, because as I've transitioned in going to Kazi and making that full time and having to sell myself, it has required me to really hone in that skill. And I have replaced my resume with what I call highlights. So I have 4 or 5 highlights from the past N number of years where I have gone in and made a major difference. And they're all centered around organizational changes. So the most recent one was I came in as an agile coach, fixed that, and then said, hey, our engineering team isn't great. Like, okay, well, you want to be the director of engineering? Sure. And I just kept going down the line, fixing departments until I got to the point where like, hey, Josh, can you run product for us? Okay, sure. Have I ever done that? Not really, but yeah, I can make it happen. And after 4 years of doing that, the company got acquired at a valuation of $2 billion. And the executives were very clear in telling me that the work that we did in technology, specifically the work I did in helping us become a product driven organization, increased the multiples that we were valued at by companies that were out there. And it helped us get to the $2 billion point. And that was one of those real great validations of like, yes, all that hard work really matters. Other things is just having come into companies where they've stopped selling the product because the onboarding process was such a disaster, and their answer to that was, we're going to build version 2.0 because our onboarding stinks. And it was like, that's a terrible idea. Why don't we just fix the onboarding? So in, a fraction of the time it would have taken to build version 2.0, we fixed the onboarding, got it from 8 months to 2 weeks, and the company started selling again. And money coming in is a good thing. So that again turned around the fortune of that company. So it's things like that where the difference I've made versus, like, when you look at day one versus day end when I walk out the door, those are things that I can be very proud of. And there's like 4 or 5 others that are a part of that I use as a part of the highlights of Josh to show to executives and board
Yep.
members, like, this is what Josh does whenever you hire him. It goes from this to this. And I have very distinct numbers and points about differences that are made.
Give it to me. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Metacasters, I want to point something out. Josh is the consummate this isn't lip service. Consummate agile guy, consummate agile leader, consummate team guy. You just noticed him step out of that and talk about me. There wasn't a lot of, but everything he said was a we behind the curtain, right? And I know
Mhm.
that, but it was a me, and he was talking about his impact and his essence, and he was communicating his focus point and the initiative he would take, the openness he was to change, etc. Those were wonderful snippets, I think, and that was a perfect example. Josh, don't let it go to your head, because
Too late.
Lord knows. But in all seriousness, I was hoping for a role model like that.
Yeah.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
Can we stick a fork in? I'm feeling like we stick a fork in it. What
I
do you
feel
think?
pretty good, right? We talked about the importance. We've given some people some hows and different ways to tackle things. Something that you can do, and yes, this is like, me selling some of the things, is going to Kazi.io. One of the things I'm doing is I'm reworking my sales pitch there to put to potential customers, and turning those highlights I talked about. Those are on the front page, but I don't like the way they're set up. So what I've done is I'm moving it towards these are like customer use cases. These are examples of what happened whenever you hire Kazi. So the content's there. I'm going to reshape it. So if you're thinking about, gosh, how do I do this? What do I do? And I have an example that I can offer, and it's based on my history. But if you've listened to our podcast, you already kind of know my history, so that'll help you think about the things Josh has talked about. And then these are the words that he turned them in to try and communicate and advocate for himself slash myself. It's weird saying a third person thing there.
Sounds good. Let's close this sucker down. So
Okay.
everyone from beautiful downtown Cary, North Carolina,
And beautiful Fuquay Arena, North Carolina.
I'm Bob Galen.
And I'm Josh Anderson.
Shake.
And Luke.
Take care, y'all.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
It is
I,
Kenya.
this was
Hey.
a crucial conversation, Josh. I think.
Yeah.
I'm glad, and I think the timeliness of it, particularly in our domain. I think it's a general thing, but in our domain, this coaching, agiles, right, soft servantty. I'm because as I talk to folks, I'm seeing it. Like 90% of the change agents in agile, or a very large percentage, really struggle with that.
Yeah, that was shocking to me. But again, that's like, I'm not wired in that manner. But the fact that back to
No,
back.
no, you are not. No, You're reverse. Maybe we should sew a little kit, like reverse Josh wiring, or
If we could figure out how to turn that into, oh, speaking of a kit, you know that thing we've always talked about,
yes,
of taking our 250 episodes and turning it into something?
yes.
Chat
Do you have
GPT is going to do it for us.
Chat GPT is going to do it for us?
Yeah,
Oh, I don't
I
know how.
am. I
And will it
am.
light and will it light up a cigar for me as well so that we can celebrate? I mean,
Yeah, it can. I am working on something that's going to read or listen to to every episode and provide us at least a chapter, like a table of
a
contents that we can
synopsis or
push
so,
in. Yeah,
so
and
like
then
a
we
table
can.
of contents and a
Yeah,
synopsis?
yeah, and then we can lean in there, decide, hey,
It
like, yeah, we're
cannot.
gonna.
Can it
Yeah, it
do?
can.
Oh, come on.
Yeah,
This thing is scaring me to
you
death.
can. You can teach it everything, every word we've ever said, and we're gonna turn it into a book.
Turn it
So
into a Stephen, I love the way oh
yeah,
my god.
yeah.
Oh my god. Stephen, it'll go to size 9.5 to 10 if we do that. It's gonna turn into a hot air balloon is what it's gonna do.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about mine.
Yep.
Oh,
I know, I know.
oh my god. What are those cartoons? Remember the cartoons where someone would like put their thumb in
Yeah.
their mouth?
The head would get bigger. Yeah.
So, hey,
Uh,
Josh,
yeah.
Stephen, everyone who provided comments, Kenya, Stephen, everyone, thank you.
Stew. Yep.
Stu, thank you for engaging with us. We really
Yes.
appreciate it. Absolutely appreciate it. We hope we had value today. Josh, I love you, man. You
Love
have
you
a
too,
wonderful
man.
day. Good
You
seeing
too.
you.
Take
Take
care.
good care.
See you, buddy.